Good evening. My name is Satya Dosapati. I am an alumni of 1981 IIT Chennai. It's like homecoming for me. We are here for the presentation on the use of electronic voting machines in elections, facts, fallacies, and fiction. How many of you, I think most of you are students, and some of you as actually from outside who are not students are all here. And I don't think, how many of you can vote? Can you raise your hands? Wow, that's a good number. What is the voting age in India now? 18, huh? How many of you voted? And how many of you used to have machine, electronic voting machine? I'm sure it's 100%, right? Everybody who voted. Did anybody vote but who didn't vote on electronic voting machine? So I don't. You voted on voted, but with no, last election. I'm talking last election. Last election is 100%, right? Okay, you didn't. That's what I was trying to get to. Postal ballot was there in 2004 and 2009. For the India Election Commission went almost 100% into electronic voting machines. Now, why are we having this debate? We have come 20 years. We have started electronic voting machines about 25 years ago. We tried it at many different places and then found it is suitable. It's thought it's a great fit for the country. And in 2004 and 2009, we went 100% and we thought we are technologically catching up with the technology and making our election process efficient. But then, at the same time, as we are also doing this, there are other countries which are also on the bandwagon of electronic voting machines, whether it's in Europe, USA, and all these several countries. But what is the situation today? You know, if you look at the countries across the Europe and even in the USA, electronic voting machines has been the standalone electronic voting machines has been banned, or if not banned, there is a paper backup mandatory. Why is that? So it is an important thing for a big democracy like India to understand what are the issues. We cannot just say that, okay, these things work well, there will always be problems with things, let's move on and let's not waste our time with this thing. But this is not something we can do with a democracy. Democracy means that is the only chance people have to to elect, to vote for those who are going to rule over us. And it's a most sacred thing, it's a fundamental right. And if we lose that, we can get the leaders whom we don't want. Worse, it can bring down the country economically and in many different ways. So the elections is a very, very fundamental thing, and we have to at least try to do what is best in the process of electing the people. So with us, we have here an activist from different countries, as well as activists from India. I want to say that the people who have here are the people who have achieved the most in their countries. We have Rob Gongrzip. Can you raise it? He's going to introduce more about himself. He's a computer hacker, a successful entrepreneur. He's from Netherlands, who has single-handedly is the instrumental in Netherlands banning electronic voting machines after spending millions of dollars. After many years, for many elections they have. And I have Alex Halderman from University of Michigan is a professor of computer security who has done so much of research in computer security. He has done for California for state, some studies for the California state, and also studies with Princeton University and professors. And I have Jaeger from Germany. He is the attorney who argued in Germany Supreme Court that effectively banned in the use of electronic voting machines. You cannot get more better people than this. If you search the whole world, you got the best people. I wanted, being an IIT alumnus, I wanted my university, the college I came from, have an opportunity to know what this EVM issues is about, and that's why we have, and I'm hoping you participate in this discussion, take benefit out of it, and you are the future people. I mean, you are going out to the world, and you're the one who's going to make change. So I will, and I have Hari Prasad. He's a Net India from Net India company from Hyderabad, who has done extensive studies. He has been with the election commission officials, lot of friction with them and lot of arguments with them, and lot of demonstrations. He went on TV demonstrating a look-alike electronic voting machine, how easy it is to hack EVM machine. I have Mr. VV Rao at the end. He's an NGO organization, Jana Chaitanya Vedika, who's also been with the Election Commission and trying to convince them that EVMs have issues. We got to take some action. So the format I would like, to take is, we also have Satyanath Ji, who is actually filed the first Supreme Court PIL contesting. This was what, in 2004? In 2004, contesting the usage of the electronic voting machines. So the format I would like to follow is each speaker will come and speak for 5 to 10 minutes, speak about their experiences and introduce themselves a bit more than I did. And then we will open up for discussion, and it's an informal thing. Feel free to ask. There is no wrong question or no question that's a bad question. So let me open up the thing. So I'll ask Rob Gongrijek to first come and speak.
Good evening. My name is Rob Gongrijp. I'm here from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. And I'll quickly go over a little bit of why I got interested in this story. I'll make it very short because I also would like most of the time to go to discussion of this issue. I started worrying about electronic voting machines relatively early on because Holland had electronic voting machines pretty much during the time that I grew up already. The early 80s, the first machines were introduced, and by the early 90s, the machines were almost 100% in use. One city was the exception, still using paper ballots, and that was Amsterdam, my city. Amsterdam was the last city to go electronic in 2006, and at that time I was sufficiently skeptical of the machines to start a campaign of my own. First thing I did was research how these machines worked, what we knew about them. I found out that Ireland had bought the Dutch voting machines and had since rejected them because they weren't found secure. And there was lots of documentation on what the machines were, how they worked. Big discussion ensued, and to make it really short, we alleged that there was problems. Government said there's no problems, these machines are fail-safe. There's nothing you can do because it's really, the program is in ROM. Thank you very much. There's nothing you can do, the program is in ROM. There's no operating system, so there's nothing for you to change. Our machines it's impossible to manipulate. Exactly the same arguments that are being used in India. We then got hold of a few machines, demonstrated that we could easily take out the ROM with the software, stick in a new ROM, and then it would do whatever we wanted, in this case counting the votes dishonestly. This led to a big row in Parliament and in the media. Commissions were appointed, and a year and a half later, the country had abolished electronic voting and had gone back to paper ballots. So a country that was 100% electronic voting, like India is now, and where in many municipalities the last paper ballots went out 25 years ago or 20 years ago, and where, in other words, there were municipalities where nobody worked that had ever seen a paper ballot, had to switch back to paper. This was a bit of a shock, and it was, but the first election on paper, when the European Parliament elections, went perfectly fine. It took a few hours longer to get the result, but there were no major problems. And I think there's a lot of lessons in here. Other people will go into much more detail as to why electronic voting machines are bad. There will be a discussion where that will probably come back. But I guess this is sort of my story that I wanted to tell. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Alex Halderman. I am a professor of computer science at the University of Michigan. I'm sorry about my voice. I'm having a little bit of trouble speaking, and I may not be able to talk for very long tonight before it goes away. And I'm also sorry I don't look more like a professor, but I'm working on the beard. My work is about computer security, and a lot of it has focused on the problem of electronic voting in the United States, where beginning about 10 years ago, there was a movement to introduce many more electronic voting machines because of the problems we had in 2000 with the election between George Bush and Al Gore. I can't speak any louder, but I hold it closer. So, in the States, we adopted more electronic voting machines over the last decade, but only since that time has there been really a movement to study them in computer science and to understand what the security problems are. But over the last decade, there have been literally hundreds of academic papers published about the security of electronic voting, looking into questions like, can the machines be hacked? How can we build stronger machines? How do we audit the results properly? And all of that. And I'm hoping to bring some of the things we've learned there to India now and to try to apply them to the EVM situation here. One of my early works was the first academic security review of a complete electronic voting system, something called the Diebold AccuVote TS, which was at the time the most widely used electronic voting machine in the US. And we got this machine. The manufacturer had been saying that it was totally secure. We should just trust them. The election officials had been saying, there's no problem, you can trust us. But no one would let any independent party, any academic researchers, for instance, open up the machine or look at its software or figure out really what was going on inside that black box. And so it made a lot of people suspicious, and it turns out for good reason, because we finally got one through from an anonymous source, and I can't tell you who it was, but I can tell you that I was the one to actually pick up the voting machine, and it was like something out of a spy movie. I drove up to New York City and double parked my car outside a hotel in Times Square, and I had to go back into the alley behind the hotel where there was a man in a trench coat who gave me a leather briefcase containing the voting machine. So you can't make some of this stuff up. There are some aspects of spy movies in the whole thing. But when we finally got the voting machine back into our laboratory and took it apart with the 3 grad students working the whole summer in a locked room in the basement, what we found when we took it apart was that it had very serious security problems. The software architecture was insecure, so with just 1 minute of physical access to the machine, we could introduce vote-stealing software that would change all the records of the election inside the machine. And what was worse is we discovered a new kind of threat in this voting system. You could actually make a computer virus that would spread from voting machine to voting machine and would spread from a single point of infection to all the machines in the whole state, and could potentially change the statewide election outcome. So I think this really illustrates the danger of electronic voting, is you have a black box that people aren't allowed to see into, so you don't know how badly the programmers and engineers who made it might have gotten things wrong. And then you have all this power of a computer system. We know how powerful computers are when they do what we want them to do. But if they're doing what someone else wants them to do, someone who is a criminal who wants to change the election outcome, then they can be equally powerful, but for evil instead of for benefit. Unfortunately, what we found in this first voting system we analyzed was not isolated. Since that time, there have been studies of probably close to a dozen different voting machines in the United States made by different manufacturers. And in almost every case, I think in literally every case, these studies have found severe security problems very similar to the ones I've talked about, things that would let an attacker change the election outcome, things that would let voting officials violate the secret ballot and find out how people voted. So there's a pattern of failure here. It doesn't look like we know how to build voting machines that are secure at a cost that governments are willing to pay. Now, the situation in India is different. Your voting machines here are a different technology in some ways from the voting machines in the United States, but what's the same is they're all computers. They all have the full power of a computer under the hood. And the major difference is the machines in the United States are more complicated, higher price, expensive units. Some of them have touch screens and memory cards and all of that. Whereas the machines in India are a very simple, low-cost design. They're this well-engineered for cost savings and simplicity and durability and these other constraints. But I think the major difference that makes in terms of security is the voting machines in America, the easiest way to attack them as an outsider of the system is to try to inject malicious software. In India, there are probably two ways to cheat. One is if you're an insider, if you're someone who is involved in designing the machines and maintaining the machines, then maybe you can tamper with the software and make it cheat arbitrarily. But if you're an outsider, probably the easiest thing to do is to replace some part of the hardware. And because it's such a simple electronic device, that turns out to be relatively easy and relatively inexpensive. So you could, if you had access to a machine for a minute, something like that, replace some of the circuitry. You could replace the motherboard. You could replace the ballot unit. We write in the book that we just released last week mentions you could replace the display. So all of these attacks are something that someone with relatively little engineering skill, that I'm sure all of the engineering students here could do, could build a replacement part for the machine that would cheat. And then you just have to get it into the machine sometime during its life cycle. So the result is, unless you trust everyone who is able to have access to the machine for its entire life cycle, from the time that it is designed until the time that the votes are counted for the current election, then you can't trust the results of the election. It could have been stolen by a part that was replaced. All right, let me hand it off to our next speaker, and I look forward to the discussion. Oh, by the way, did anyone here apply to the University of Michigan for the PhD program? I know we have a few applicants from here, and I'd really like to meet them, but maybe the next time I visit.
Well, first of all, I have to thank you being here on Saturday evening. I know there are other things to do. So I really appreciate that you come for this important issue. To introduce myself, my name is Till Jaeger. I'm a German lawyer. Jaeger means in English hunter, and that's what I did on behalf of my client to hunt voting machines in Germany. And so what we did was the following. My client, who's a computer specialist, was the first one in Germany to really realize that there are problems with these machines, because he not only looked at the technical side of the issue, is it hackable or not, but we also look deeply in the legal side. And that's what I want to explain you a little bit, what is the legal issue in Germany, and perhaps you will see that is something that could be comparable in India too, because it's not only because specific German law, but it's law that should be the same in India too. So we claimed that the election from 2005 was unconstitutional. Unconstitutional because of the use of voting machines. Why that? What we applied at the court, what we claimed is that the principle of democracy, and democracy is not only a fact but also a legal principle, that this principle is affected by the use of voting machines. And the court agreed in saying, yes, from the principle of democracy comes a principle of public evidence and public nature of the whole election. And this public nature means that the whole act of voting has to be under the eyes of the public. And that's what happens with paper ballots. With paper ballots, you can look into the ballot box, it's empty. You can see is there a trick on it or not. You put the paper in the box, and the box is observed by the people. And then the box is opened and counted in the public. So in India, there are officials from the parties and administration that look at this act and can see what's happening there. Of course, there might be fraud or there might be booth capturing, but you have to do it in public, and it can be seen, and you can look for security and for actions against that. But the voting machines, you don't know if there's any fraud. So let's take this example of an insider changing the software. What can you do? You can't look into the software in every single machine. Perhaps some of you, if they would be allowed, but they aren't. And not everybody could understand that. So you have a machine and you have to trust that this machine works correctly. And that's what the court said. The public nature of the election does mean that you do not have to trust any third persons or any authorities for the elections, but you have a public voting. That means you have the right that it is observed and understood by everybody if the voting was correct. And for this reason, the German Constitutional Court ruled out voting machines, clearly saying those machines are unconstitutional because they are not compliant to the principle of democracy. There might be solutions with a paper trail that might be acceptable, but standalone machines without any paper aren't. So that's how we achieved to ban voting machines in Germany. Thank you. One further remark. This is a book, Democracy at Risk, from Narasimha Rao, with very, very useful information about the whole system in India and the problems about it. So who is interested in this subject should really look for that book. I will ask him if he could publish it in the internet so you have easy access to it. And I think the people here in India will open a website with all the information needed. And I can really ask you to back such efforts to tear down voting machines, because it's about your future. Thanks.
I think it should be there from tomorrow, I feel, in all the bookstores. Yesterday it was launched. Okay. Guys, I'm Prasad. I'm the managing director of Net India. But recently these people have named me as hacktivist. I feel like I'm not at all a match for you people. I know a lot of you can do anything what I've done. It's very simple. Instead of explaining about myself, what I'll do is I'll take you into the discussion straight away. And before taking you to the discussion, I'll just tell a few words like what was my experience with the Election Commission, because anyway the other things you have already seen in the newspapers and television channels, and you people might have laughed at me that this is a simple thing what this guy is showing to people, but a lot of Indians felt that it's a big thing what I'm doing. A lot of people doesn't know that when I'm showing it on my mission also, people are becoming emotional. In places like Orissa, I was worried that they will break my mission, look-alike mission, which I done. Okay. I actually started, or I actually entered into this after an NGO approached me after the 2009 election and started showing certain shocking results and said that like how these kind of results can come, in the sense like in certain areas it was totally like 100% votes have gone to one single person. Such kind of things is not possible, because you'll have at least a polling agent or a counting agent in your booth, and it is not actually possible that way. So it created some sort of an academic interest, and we went through the manuals that are provided by the Election Commission and thought that this is a very simple mission. And in fact, till then even I doesn't know like how this voting machine works. I don't know whether anybody of you know like how the voting machine works? Anybody of you know how the voting machine works? Hands up. But we know, but I think everybody know like how to press the button on the ballot, am I right? Yeah, that's what. See, even me was the same. We doesn't know like what the control unit is going to do, or we are not even bothered to study what is there on the website. But Election Commission has given exactly like as fairly the working of the voting machine, but we are not bothered. We are very much interested in building our careers and looking at our subjects, not in the voting machines. But when it comes to the Western states, it is the computer professionals who entered into it, and it is the academicians who entered into this and hacked these machines, ripped these machines, and got a ban in their countries. And here it is our IIT professors who certified these machines by just doing a black box testing. I think nobody of you will accept such kind of a black box testing. Seeing all these things, we thought like, yes, we have to do something, and I tried approaching some returning officers, or you call CEO of our state, to provide me a machine so that I can see whether I can do something in it. And no, they said no. And to tell my background, actually, my company worked with ECL while they were doing the voting machine, in fact developing an internet card, so that when you connect it to the voting machine, it can post all the votes to a particular server. Now it was with a good intention that time it was done, and it can send fax. After that, even we worked with one of the companies in US which developed a voting machine for US called Guardian, and we have developed some security modules in it along with TCS. That was our background. So I thought like there is nothing big in this voting machine, and why these people are claiming it is 100% secure, 1000% secure. It was repeatedly saying, and interesting thing is the technology is not defended by the technology people. It is defended by the checks and balances, or the people who doesn't know the technology. It is always said by the election commissioners. They say my mission is perfect. It was never by the technical guy, or the guy who developed it says that it is 100% secure. In fact, my experience in the election commission for the first time on, I think it is August 17th, with all the three commissioners present, it was Mr. Naveen Chawla always interrupting or trying to talk to me. It was not Mr. Indration who actually certified these machines. When I was asking him, Professor, if at all an ethical hacking is allowed, do you think I can hack the machine? He says, no, you don't talk to me, you talk to Mr. Chawla. Then I told Mr. Chawla, are you a technical guy? Chawla says, no, I'm not a technical guy. It is on the words of Mr. Indration and their committee we are going ahead. Then I said, said, you give me a chance, you give me 10 machines, I'll manipulate 2 or 3, and I'll give back all the machines to you. Check it up, which I tampered. If you fail to do so, I'll call my machines and I'll ask them to favor a particular candidate which you say. This is what I said. Chawla said, yes, we will allow you, but we are not ready now. We'll call you back again. I said, fine. Then after that, they didn't call me. Instead, they sent notices to the engineers who are along with me. A criminal notice is sent to us saying that if you don't publicly apologize that your claim of tamperability is wrong, we will take action against you. The only way what I can do is reach the press and make a lot of noise. Oh, people are giving me criminal notices, save me. Then I think, whatever be it, but immediately the Election Commission has written a letter to ECIL to withdraw that notice or consider to withdraw the criminal notice, which even today I think it has not been withdrawn. It's still there. I don't know when they will pick me up. Okay. After a lot of pressure, they again called us on September 3rd. In fact, it was a tense moment for us also because our Chief Minister died on September 2nd. But we went there. But this time when I went there, I thought I should be careful. So I forced my activist, Mr. VV Rao, who is sitting over there, saying that, see, we already got criminal notices. Now we should need some sort of a tangible proofs along with us. Or we need some sort of an evidence or some sort of a safeguard that what we are doing is right and with the consent of the Election Commission. It is not without the consent of the Election Commission. And as you know, the only guy who can stand always, or people call him always like a guy who makes noise, is Mr. Subramanian Swamy. We requested him to come. He's the only guy who can fight with anybody. So we said, Mr. Swamy, can you come along with us? he was happy to come along with us, and we called the author of this book to come along with us, Mr. Narasimha Rao, who is a media advisor to the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh and also a cephalogist. And we requested Advocate General, former Advocate General of Orissa, Mr. Jaeger, because they are also victims over there. That's the reason when we requested he also come along with us. On 3rd, the showdown day, we asked the ECL and VL people to open the machines. We said, like, we are scared, first you open the machines so that it is with your consent we are touching your machines. BL opened the old machine. The moment it is opened, along with me, I have 2 other engineers of mine, saw into it. It's something like a eureka, what is there in our face. We were looking like it. Here it is, that's what we are seeing. We should have actually acted a bit modestly, but what we have done is something we found. So we started, come on, this is the one. There is a panic situation among the engineers of ECL and VEL. They immediately approached the technical committee, Mr. Indareshan, Sahani and Agarwal, IIT Delhi professors, and then the deputy election commissioners who were present at that point of time, and said, please stop. Then immediately Mr. Subramanian said, why? You asked us to demonstrate, we will demonstrate it. We will not stop it. But they said, no, please stop it because we are confused with the process, what he is going. So we need to understand whether the process is right or not. Then I asked, like, who will say whether it is right or not? No, we have to find it out with Mr. Chawla. I said, Chawla is not a technical guy, Mr. Indareshan is here. Professor Indareshan says, no, you don't come to me. It is Mr. Chawla who has to say. That's all. We stopped and we came out, waiting for them to call. And we received a letter after 2 months. And that means I think they are busy with the elections. After the elections, they sent a mail saying that, boss, you are trying to infringe the patent rights of these manufacturers, so you cannot open the machines, but you will be allowed with a normal tampering. I don't understand what is normal tampering. They said, you should not open the machines and do normal tampering. If you are ready to do normal tampering, then you come and do it. But after coming out, our activist, who actually was a part of election watch in the 2009 elections, he started making noise. He's anyway a nuisance guy. He goes everywhere and starts saying that the machines are hackable. Then I think there are some pro-EVM guys who actually support the technology. One loyalist of such kind, who actually I think is an officer, I cannot say who he is, called me one day and said, "Hey man, you're claiming that you can hack a machine. Can you hack it? It's a mass chip. It is a mass chip in that. It's one-time programmable. It is fused at the factory level. Can you hack the code? Can you hack and show me?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Yes." Then he said, "No, I'm getting the machine for you. Let's do it. If you're unable to do it, then you're going to stop this activity and you're not going to unnecessarily play with the name of the election commission." It's the right thing. I said, "Yes, I should not claim wrong." And I came across the machine. I came across the old machine of ECIL. I'll show you some photographs now. Definitely I'll excite you people by showing that photographs, but after seeing that, you all will laugh at it saying that what is this? Because it is a single 8-bit chip with 2 EPROMs outside, connected to a cable, which the cable is connected to the ballot unit outside, and the ballot unit have 2 EPLDs on it. The new design carry CPLDs, earlier design carry EPLDs, easy programmable to complex programmable. They increased a bit. And you can play with the EPLDs there, or you can play with the EPROMs here. And the moment I shared with my friend Mr. Alex on phone, he said, "Come on, you can play with the display also." That's what he told me. And he made it. He made it. So what I have done is, the moment I got the machine, immediately I opened it, I took out the card. Funnily, the card is also, the way they fixed it, it is 4 screws. Have a screwdriver, just rotate it, tuck, everything will come. After that, everything is a snap fit. It takes maximum of 20 to 30 seconds. While opening it, I recollected Mr. Rob, because he has put a video in the YouTube, hacking in 60 seconds. I thought I should compete with him and say 30 seconds I'll hack it. So I opened it, then I saw it's a mass chip. And obviously, yes, you can't do anything with the mass chip, but the way it works, the logic, the way they designed it, anybody can do it, because I have done a lookalike machine in 10 days. And in fact, my machine was much superior than this machine. It is connected through a 15-pin cable to the EPLDs, and the EPLD will give the logic of the keys. The moment you press the key, what you see in the booth, the signal will go. In fact, it's not a signal. A clock will come from the control unit to the ballot unit, and the moment you press it, it interrupts, and it scans all the keys and finds out which key it is through a single line. And after that, the control unit processor will send it to the ballot unit to glow the LED. There might be some instances in Chennai, I think in Tamil Nadu somewhere, where I think PMK people fought a lot with the commission last time, saying that we pressed one key and one LED is glowing. Now you understand why it has happened, because some crude people might have played with the ballot unit, where they doesn't know that if a key is pressed again, the signal has to come from the the control unit. So they might have done some logic on this without understanding it. So a key is pressed over here, some other LED is glowing there. So that kind of logic is there. Now see, I don't say that they have done a bad design. They made a simple design. They openly said it is a simple design, a low-cost design which costs about 2,000-3,000 rupees, that's all. But the thing is, the fundamentals are... Oh, okay. I think I'm boring you people, I feel, right? No. Sure? Oh. No, I thought I should share. I am excited after seeing a lot of students. No, this was a dream place of mine, but unfortunately, by choice or whatever it is, I'm a dropout. I always used to think about IITs, you know, and I know the people over here are crazy, in fact. Okay, let's go into it. Anyway, the mission was hacked by accessing the EPROMs first. I could able to see how the votes are there inside, and to the guy who bought the machine to me, I took 2 days, not even 2 days, I think the next day I could demonstrate him. I asked him whom you want to win. You want to win in this. He said candidate number 4. How many votes you want, I said. No, I will vote on it, then only you have to show me. I said fine. Then instantly, I can show you the device also through which I've done this. I had a PC with me, access the EPROMs using a microprobes on it, click, 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 and made the processor to go into reset mode, and took out the entire data, decrypted it and shown. We have done a VB program in which we have shown like, see, these are the votes what you have voted. Now you want so many votes, so much percentage, come on, right, just put it, click, everything is there. He didn't believe, so he saw the result, it was there. He didn't speak to me anything. He took away the mission and he said like, don't tell my name, I'm going. So that's how it happened. Okay, I'll show you by the time what I feel is like, come out with your questions, and I sincerely feel that you are the people, like seriously to have, like you have a lot of time, you have a lot of zeal inside. You should fight against these machines. And yes, let us try to get something in a big way. It's not that somebody laugh at us saying that, see, every country is going out at, but Indians are not bothered about these kind of missions which are so vulnerable. Our election commissioner says that our missions are not networked, our missions are simple. We are completely different from the other missions. But what I saw with the other missions is they are anacondas and we are earthworms. And they say that anaconda is easy to kill, but earthworm is not easy. So that's what I want to say. And now I feel like you people put the questions, let these people answer, and let's take it forward, like what should be the future. Thank you. Yeah, the activist actually who spoiled me, let him speak a while.
Thank you, Mr. Hari. Yeah, as he said, always he used to call me as a troublemonger. Yes, behind every trouble there is a deviation from the truth, and always in search of truth we should become troublemongers. So this today we are all here. Behind this there is a small story. I don't want to take much of the time. Our journey started from Andhra Pradesh during the election watch 2009, where more than 100 civil society organizations, along with the eminent personalities like Lingdo, KJ Rao, all these people are associated with this program. I had a great privilege of working as a convener to this program in Andhra Pradesh. Literally, I was on road along with Mr. KJ Rao, the former advisor to the Election Commission, going around all the 23 districts of Andhra Pradesh and more than 120 constituencies. We were trying to motivate the volunteers, trying to participate in the election watch program, where we were getting interacted with all these people, and I find people like you, I mean youngsters with diploma in electronics, with a minimum knowledge of electronics, trying to put several questions on electronic voting machines. Fortunately or unfortunately, KJ Rao, who is a prominent personality, worked in Bihar and he's got a very good reputation. He worked in Election Commission for 40 years with a tremendous experience. He was trying to answer each and every question in the, during that time, except any question which is coming in under electronic voting machines. He was trying to dodge it. That has created an interest in me. After 20 days of our trip, one day I asked him, "Sir, please can you tell me? I was just continuously observing you for the last 20 days. Whenever a question comes on electronic voting machine, a simple question, even a simple question was not answered by you." He told me the small secret behind it. He told me that when it comes to the technology, we are depending on some expert by name Indresan, who is being given full freedom to play on EVMs, and we are just depending on him. And the curiosity started in me from that day onwards. Even it took one more month for us to complete this election watch program. And from that day, you don't believe, I was just getting more and more questions on electronic voting machines, where our search for trying to clarify the doubt started then, and immediately after the results, we were able to correlate a lot of issues what we were encountering in these public meetings came true when the results came in the second phase of election and first and second phase of elections. And fortunately, Chandrababu Naidu from Telugu Desam Party helped us to acquire a lot of data from from several polling booths, and later we were able to get similar polling wise counting of all from more than 6 states of this country, and we had a data analysis of all these things, and then we were able to correlate and get more than 8 types of different issues were identified in these electronic voting machines. And we were fortunate enough to get Mr. Hari Prasad with us to find out whether these issues are in any way related to the technology. And after extensive study, we were able to establish that there is a lot of correlation between what are the problems we have found and the technology-oriented issues. And then we went to Supreme Court to file a PIL on this issue, and Supreme Court gave a very good order saying that without getting prejudiced to the rights of the petitioner is allowed, should go and get all these doubts clarified with the Election Commission. We felt it is a very positive order given to us. We knocked the doors of the Election Commission, as Hari has told you the other side of the story in continuation. And today we are here still trying to convince the Election Commission to positively take this issue and try to immediately come with better amendments and save this country. You know, today, even in places like ATMs, and you have several scams coming up in this country. When you are using electronics, there is a lot of difficulties what you find in everyday newspapers and in TV channels. You find a lot of scams going around it. And I have a request for all of you, like our Hari also told you, that this is something is going to very serious, and it is a time now people like you should take up this issue and save this democracy. And thank you all for giving me this support.
So I think you heard so many different perspectives, but the overriding concern is the country's democracy will be jeopardized if we don't understand what the issues are and take the corrective measures. Now we will open up the floor for questions. Feel free to ask any question. As I said, there's no such thing as a dumb question, and we'll try to answer, and the experts will answer the questions. Yeah, please.
In the circuit, whether we can, whether the EC can introduce any Trojan code?
Somebody want to take up?
Can you repeat?
In the circuit, there is a Trojan code is there. Some virus can be introduced in the circuit.
I'll tell you this way. The manufacturers, after designing this electronic coating machine,
Yes.
the whatever code that they have developed was being sent out to two companies. One is Hitachi and another one is Microchip.
Yeah.
In BL, it is PIC series chips that are used, and in this one, ECL, it is Hitachi chip H8 series. Now, the code has gone outside, and it's a mass chip which even the manufacturer cannot read what is there inside. Now, you tell me, is it not possible to introduce a Trojan by people like me, intercept it in between, and swap the chips with my chips? I can do anything. Anything is possible, isn't it?
So,
Am I right, guys?
yeah. If you understand the process is they buy the chips, then some distributor sends the chips to some company in Japan.
No, wrong. They send the object code developed, and most of you know how to decipher the object code also, I feel. It will go to the foundry in Japan or in USA, and it is fused into the chip, and those chips are delivered through a distributor,
Yes.
custom cleared at the airport or whatever place, at the port. From some courier will carry it to the office. Now there is a scope of these many channels.
And the
Not
chip
a-
is not readable.
And the chip is not readable. If I replace it, I can demand you, show me. If you say it is duplicate, I can ask you, prove it. It is original or duplicate, you cannot prove it except by pressing the buttons and seeing the functionality is working fine or not. I saw the machine, I think I can even do it.
You can
And
test.
there are about 1.4 million, that is about 14 lakh machines across the country which were not been audited even once to the board level till date. And this was accepted by the Election Commission for a RTI appeal, and they said it is not.
Not only was it acceptable to the Election Commission, the fact that even we can't read the software back from these chips anymore was presented as a supreme security feature.
That's the.
Thank you.
Give me that. My name is Prasad. I'm with Save Indian Democracy. My problem is this with these voting machines. You suppose they are non-tamperable, let us say. They're perfect. They will never, you can never tamper them. I still have a problem. In life, whatever transaction you do, you get a receipt. When you buy something in the store, you get a receipt. You charge your credit card, you get a receipt. For example, if your credit card guy says, okay, you go charge whatever we'll send you at the end of the month, we send you bill. We won't record whatever you did. Trust us, we're charging right. You know, and that is the same way. Here, that's what this voting machine is saying. Trust us, we are right. We don't count anything, you know. That is my problem. Even if the machines are perfectly 100% right. What do you have to say?
We still have a receipt and still have.
Receipt is a bit of a dangerous word here, because receipt is something you take home. Receipt should never be used in terms of elections, because if you take home proof of who you voted for, the election is gone the next day, because people will start paying or threatening or firing for what's on your receipt. So receipt, there should be a vote should stay behind in the ballot, in the polling place. The vote should stay behind on something tangible, on a piece of paper. There should be a record of the vote that can be verified and inspected. But receipt means you take it home, and that's wrong. But we need the vote to stay in the polling station on paper.
ATMs do not give a receipt. I have no problem with that. I do online transfer. I have no receipt. I have no problem with that. Why? Because I can't control my account. And if there is any problem and any fraud, I will detect it. elections, I will never detect it. Why? The reason is the secrecy of the vote, and that makes it different from any other device. The secrecy of the vote means nobody shall know what I voted. That means you will never check if this is correct, my vote, or not, and you shall not know it. That means the only way to do it is to have paper ballots where you have really control what is on the paper, and it's anonymous, and you know it's secret, and the voting is public. So the election, the way of the election is public, and my own vote is secret. And that makes it different from all other devices in e-government and so on.
Yeah, see, in an election, the connection between the voter and the vote, the candidate that is voted, is lost. Once you cast the ballot, who voted for that candidate is no more recorded. But in a bank transaction, you can always go back to your account and see how much money was taken out of my account. I can always go and check. You can't do that in an election. That connection is broken. That is the law, that is the secrecy law. You should not be able to trace who voted for a particular, otherwise it will be a problem. It's a secrecy thing. So it's worse than that. So when you don't have, in our case, in our electronic voting machine, we don't even get our receipt, and that makes it the problem much more bigger. Any of the students would like to ask some questions?
This is for Alex. I'm just curious about what kind of repercussions you had to face once you established your findings, be it as far as the university is concerned or even your lab. Or
Thank you. That's a good question. Prior to our study, other scientists who had looked at voting machines in the U.S. or had tried to look at voting machines in the U.S. faced various kinds of threats. The company that made the voting machine threatened state officials who proposed giving the voting machines to scientists. They threatened those officials with lawsuits. In another incident, the company leaked some source code and documents that ended up on the internet, and then they tried to sue the websites that were hosting them. So we were ready to potentially face a lawsuit from the company as well. So that's why we did the work in utmost secrecy. We didn't let anyone know we had a machine or we were studying it until the day we published our findings. And that way, because the findings were scientifically sound and spoke for themselves, after they were out, there wouldn't be much reason to sue us to try to stop us from speaking. The damage to the company, from the company's perspective, the damage would have been done, and it would have seemed it would have seemed petty of them to go after critics who were saying things that were credible. So we didn't face any kind of repercussion, but I think that was largely because we planned our study in a way that would make the point and keep us safe. But we had very good lawyers helping us through the whole process. I made friends with as many new lawyers as new scientists during the course of this research. So it's difficult to do safely for the scientists, but it's possible.
So your findings really helped you from them suing you, because the more noise they make, the more exposure becomes to of their machines. So,
but keeping quiet about it until we were all finished.
You have to be completely sure, and nobody can contest it. And sure.
Sir, it happened in Tamil, in a place called Madurai, and candidate said, "I'll win by a so-and-so margin vote," and he actually won. During the election period on that day, on the election day, up to 4 o'clock in the evening, there was a register of about 60% of vote. During the last 1 hour, there was almost about 85% of registration of vote. So how this could happen? And the election commission said the number of votes can be registered in a 1 hour time is so limited. It's so number, I would not remember the number, but the election commission said number of votes can be polled in an hour is limited. Mm-hmm. So how this can happen?
That's right.
Can you just repeat the question so that I'll be more comfortable? Or shall I repeat it? I'll repeat your question. What you're asking me is, in Madurai constituency, up to 4 o'clock or 12 o'clock, let us say, like the polling percentage was X,
60%.
but after that, suddenly it has raised. Am I right? And what you said is right. The election commission says, or even the machines, like there is a frequency, or what do you call it, the gap between the votes is about 12 seconds, I feel, 12 or 15, I'm confused. It should be 12. 12 seconds. Right? 12 seconds. And it is only 5 votes that you can poll in 1 minute. And now 60, about 300 votes in 1 hour. See, the percentage can be this way, you can feel this way, like the total number of votes in a booth can be max of 1200, that's what they limited it, but the machine can hold up to 3000, done, or a tampering has to be done. It will be done in a methodical way, no need of doing it in a crude way.
No, it's possible that after they have seen the election results to be at certain point, can they activate something to increase the...
No, the Trojans can activate. I think these people can understand. A Trojan can do anything what you want.
This actually.
Can you please? I think you're not agreeing with him. Am I right?
I think discussing something happening in one polling station and even speculating this must be because the Trojan has activated. To me, it's very clear that there is a history of incidents that needs to be studied, but we have to be very careful connecting certain incidents to this must be because the EVMs were tampered with. Right. We have to be very academic about the way we go about this, and the academic way is to assume that there are perfectly reasonable, normal explanations for 99.9% of everything that we see, and there may be something funny or not, but we have to go at this in an academic way, and I don't particularly feel it's helpful. But here there were 2 more votes, and then unless there's something which is truly impossible or where it's staring us in the face.
The specific question I think they've asked and he was replying is, can a Trojan be in the middle, activated after you see a result in a certain way? I think that was your question. Your answer to that is yes. Do you agree with him or not? Is
yes,
that question?
I agree, it can be, yes.
It can be. After seeing a result going in a certain way, Trojan can intervene.
If you signal the Trojan, if the Trojan is signaled by a voter pressing a certain key combination, if the machine is so programmed, the voter can signal it to do a certain thing. The machine doesn't have radio.
During the counting process.
No. He said during polling process, not counting.
During polling.
A person, a voter can.
Let me tell you my observation.
My experience.
Let me finish it off because there was a contradictory statement that has come by Rob because he didn't see our machines. Here, only after pressing the ballot, the ballot button on the control unit, the ballot unit will be powered. The power goes from the control unit, and it allows to press only one key. So pressing the combination of keys is not possible in our voting machines. Is not possible in our voting machines. But at the same time, the rise of voting percentage, as I said, you can poll up to 300 votes in an hour. If you run it for 2 hours, you are reaching 50% of the polling. Normally, the max number of votes, you can see 50 or 60% is the max what you can see. Or 70%, I think, in the max percentage of poll that happened in the biggest polling booths also.
Yeah, but the question, my question is, while voting is going on, can you read the votes? How do you know what percentage?
Yeah, there is a total button on the control unit. There is a total button on the control unit. So whatever votes that are being stored inside it, the moment I press it, on the display I can see how many number of votes are polled till that time.
No, please give it to him.
You're going to show us pictures of the EVM?
Yeah, I'll definitely show you.
Yeah, we'll show it.
I'll definitely show you.
It was mentioned that you need to replace some hardware to tamper with the machine. Now, according to newspaper reports by the EC, the names of the candidates associated with a particular number are randomized and they are allotted just a few weeks before the election. So isn't it just possible for only for an insider, unlike the states or somewhere where the machines are networked, where even an outsider can tamper?
Good question.
Good question, and I think you have some knowledge about this. First of all, let me tell you, even the US machines are all not networked. The way what Alex has explained is like there is a memory card inside which we used for totalizing the votes, and one virus can spread all the virus. It is not like there is a network. And coming up to your question of randomization.
Can you explain that a little clearer? You mean say one machine can spread the virus to all the machines? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, in the States, most places use machines that use some kind of external memory device to load ballots and to unload election results for counting. Yes, so it's not. That's not the way it's done in India, right? That's the contrast.
Are you saying, to the best of your knowledge, under the Indian condition, the probability of transferring a Trojan from one to the other is slim or none, and slim is out of town?
Well, I don't think that that's the most likely attack here. That seems to be a harder attack on the Indian architecture.
Am I understanding you right?
No, we are not contradicting. See, I told you, their machine carries.
You can spread the virus or the Trojan from one machine to the other. In foreign country, he can do that. Under the Indian condition, as I understand from both of you, it is not possible because we are not inserting a card to read everything.
Perfect.
Every machine is read independently.
Perfect.
And they manually do that.
Okay,
So the probability of getting virus passed from one machine to all the machines are slim. Yes or no?
Yes, it is not possible in the Indian case. It's not possible in the Indian case.
No,
this is what I said.
No, yeah, that's
Maybe.
right.
Okay, first let me answer his question and I'll come back to you. His question is, before the election, the machines are randomized, and even ECI also always claims that nobody know that which key is allocated to which candidate, which is not true. Our randomization, I can say straight away, is a big farce, because the voting machines once manufactured are directly delivered to the districts, to the district electoral officers, and are put in the godowns. It can be one single parliament area, or the max two. Normally, a district electoral officer will hold about something around 1,500 to 2,000 machines, not more than that, as per my information. And the randomization happened among that itself, within the district. There was an answer from the Election Commission also that was there any state-wide randomization? They said no. There was no state-wide randomization. In fact, if I don't have machines in the state, there are certain occasions where those machines are lifted and sent to these states. But
he meant that the randomization of the candidates,
not
the machines.
No. That's what how reprogram it is the question. I think his question is that.
I meant that the number associated with a
particular candidate.
Yeah.
The number associated with a particular candidate is decided just a few weeks before the election by the EC.
Yes.
So it's only possible for an insider to tamper with the machine.
Yeah, maybe. However, you could program the machine to, for instance, if there's a mock election on the morning of the election, you could program the machine to favor the candidate that was first on the mock election, or two candidates after the candidate was first on the mock election. So you can program the machine to receive a cue from a voter even, or from a set of voters. There's a number of things you can do where the machine can be programmed maliciously, not to favor a certain button, a certain candidate, but to wait for a cue, whether it is to favor, because let's not forget, this is a winner-takes-all system per district. So you don't need to go after all the machines or all the districts. The fraud, in a winner-takes-all system, the fraud is very small. If you go after several tens of seats, a few hundred machines in all of India, maybe 1,000 machines of the million in India, you can have real influence in the outcome.
Let me add here. 2 weeks before, you know the list of the candidates, and there is a way the candidates, like the main parties, independents, there is a way, so you will know your slot. And second point, the biggest threat is not outsider. The biggest threat is insider. This is a very important thing. And so, and the third point, and the people who go, they do prep these electronic voting machines are not even the ECL and Bell companies, they're the subcontractors. And fourth point, you don't need to manipulate all the machines. Most of the elections in India are won within 1% or 2% votage. So if you know certain precincts and all you have to do is take care of certain number of machines are manipulated, you're done. So the hackers, the guys, there is a great motivation to manipulate. When there is a great motivation, people will find many different ways. So, I mean, did I answer that correctly? Yeah.
My question is to Dr. Alex. Sir, could you please elaborate on what procedure you followed after the results of your research was made public? Because after the release of this book, I think this will compromise our future elections if nothing is done before that.
Yes, well, that's always a worry when disclosing security problems is, are you going to make problems worse by telling people that such and such thing can be attacked in this way? And we did two things. The first thing we did was that when we published our results, we did not publish the source code to the attack demonstrations or the virus we made, and we did not publish the exact locations of the vulnerabilities we exploited, but we published enough information that other people could, other scientists could, in time, reproduce them. So there was a balance there between making sure our results were reproducible by others and making sure that they wouldn't be too easy to for an unskilled attacker to reproduce. And the second thing we did was we timed our results so that they would be released just after an election rather than just before an election. So we timed our results so that there would be a greater amount of time for things to be fixed. But at the same time, yes, it's possible that talking about these problems can make things worse. It can let people know that it could let criminals know that there's an opportunity for them. But I don't think that's really the overriding problem here, because I am sure that people whose business it is to try to manipulate elections have already thought long and hard about the security of the EVMs. The problem is that the average voter hasn't thought very much about the security of the EVMs. So I think we're really going to help things by opening a conversation about this, by talking about what the vulnerabilities are in public. The public needs to know the strengths and weaknesses of this technology in order to decide whether the benefits, the costs and benefits are right for India.
It's not manipulating the EVMs. It is only rigging the election. It is rigging that has happened because the 60% has jumped to 85% or even 100% near to Madras and Cronpet. So what happened was after 3 o'clock for 2 hours, it was a mass rigging. People go inside, capture the booth, press the reset, press like that, they are doing it. It is not any Trojan. These are all very complicated things. The government servants and the election commission are not that intelligent in India to do it. Okay, I can put straight. Because this is a systematic way of doing it. In Tamil Nadu it happens. So he was a candidate, he knows how it happened in his own constituency.
Let me address that. Let me address that.
Yeah, one more thing is what Harry said. Manufacturer can introduce some Trojan or something. Chips are when sent to various parts. This may go to different candidates. It cannot go, they all cannot go in a systematic manner. Every fifth vote cast on any button will go to first.
Sir, let me
so that may even confuse the election process.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes, let me address those points. The first thing you said was, I forget the first thing you said.
talked about rigging, but that's outside the
He said,
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
no Trojans,
So-
they just came in and
Right, so the rigging, I think that's a good point, that there are other ways you can tamper with results of elections. But the thing that computer voting makes possible that wasn't possible before is for a very small conspiracy of people to potentially affect an election on a wide scale. So the guy who pressed the button to send off the firmware that is now burnt into these chips of these 1.4 million voting machines, that guy could single-handedly have changed the outcome of every election since.
Or just take this, when they are prepping these machines before the election.
Let me get to the second
sorry.
question.
Okay.
The second part of your question. So can this kind of centralized conspiracy affect a particular party, or is it just a question of trying to affect one election and then not being able to have a continuous outcome? Well, let me give you two scenarios. The first scenario, let's say that this malicious program that the one guy programmed onto the chip used in all the voting machines, let's say all it did was switch the top two candidates' totals. That would mean that whichever party is continuously getting the most votes is now out of favor. So if one party is usually the dominant party, or was expected to be the dominant party, it would be hurting them thereafter. Second thing is you could put in a signaling mechanism that you could then sell to whichever group you wanted to favor. So you could say that there would be a certain code that you could have the person doing the maintenance on the voting machine enter that would cause it to prefer a candidate in slot 2, a certain code for slot 3, and so forth. So you wouldn't have to pick the slot at the moment the machine was made.
But let me just...
No, 1 minute. Let me answer you. Alex put me a question the day he came to India. He said, how many engineers you have? How many missions you have? 1.4 lakh missions. How many engineers you have, he said. I think even equivalent. So you have so many people who can do this because it's so simple. The next thing what I want to say, you asked me a question now saying that these machines, even the chips are being imported, they are going at various locations, so nobody knows where the machine is going. But here I want to say the Trojan inside can be sedate and can be triggered whenever I want. That is one. And second thing,
How do you decide when you want?
when you want in the sense like before the election. Wait 1 minute, let me finish it. Let me finish it. Let us take a Madurai election itself, let me answer it. Madurai election, I'll come to know my status, which key is allocated to me 4 weeks in advance. How I'll tell you. There is a sequence that will be given to the candidates based on the national parties, state recognized parties, and then comes the independents. So it is all the major parties normally get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 votes. You can see it. And then the places have to be given like that. Yeah. Next.
Sir, are there any past cases where these machines have caused serious troubles like re-elections, something?
Internationally or in India? There's the book by Mr. Rao and describes a number of incidents, including some fairly serious ones surrounding the machines.
In our survey, we have already found out similar cases. We gave this survey report to the experts. They have analyzed it. There are places like Cuttack and in Madhya Pradesh, in Andhra Pradesh. We found a lot of, even in your Tamil Nadu, Mr. PMK people have given a lot of data, at least from 10 other districts. There are cases.
You're assuming what could happen, how probable it is, what could be done, how high is the danger. I'm not sure if this is an important point. So perhaps you could consider something that the Constitutional Court in Germany said transparency of the election is not only for security, it's also for trust of the people that the election is correct. So might it even not very possible? It doesn't matter. The people will say, oh, I'm not sure and I don't trust in that. So there's someone who might be elected, but I don't feel really that he is the elected one. And that is a problem in itself.
The trust of the voter. Before he asked it, please wait until then. Okay.
So, can the election be run real time, like in the machine, the display that is shown inside the booth only? Can it be shown outside that so that everyone outside can see, so that
can see the totals for all the candidates?
Yeah.
Well, then won't you know who the person who was just in the booth voted for?
It's a secrecy. You're not allowed to show.
Yeah, you have to keep secret who the person has voted for. That's what makes this a hard problem, because you want to count accurately but in secrecy.
Okay, I have a small doubt. Am I right in assuming that the main problem or the most probable method of rigging is through the software and not through the hardware? To clarify, Mr. Hari spoke about having a proper chip, one which I assume was not having any malicious software inside. Is it possible to have a machine with a chip which you know that the software has not been tampered with, and yet through manipulating the hardware, he described opening the machine and somehow resetting all the votes? Is that also possible, or is it only or mainly an issue with the software?
Good question.
Please. It's simple. If you can access the EEPROM and if you can change the contents inside, it's possible without having any malicious software inside. And second thing also, I told you what Alex told us the moment he heard about it, changing the display. If you see the display in these machines, there is a space under the LED segments. You have about something around 2 mm or 3 mm, right? 2 mm, where you can put a chip, a 6-pin or an 8-pin chip can be put, and you can change the display. Yeah, you can change the display. Everything goes fair, but the result on the top can be changed.
So even the memory can have the correct result, but when it displays, it displays.
Yeah, if I get an access, see, here what we need to understand is, in the beginning itself I told you, technology cannot be defended by checks and balances. Always, Election Commission is trying to do this, and people are trying to do that. Let's not try to defend it with checks and balances. Let's try to defend it with the technology.
Okay, I'm a non-technologist, and most of the people in this country, except a few elites, I'm not an IITian. Okay, I'll just take a couple of minutes here. Well, 1 minute. Okay, I'm a politician. I've been in the States for about 13 years. I came back in '88. I've been active in politics in India for the last 20 years. I belong to a party. That's irrelevant. I would like to look at it in an objective way. I also happen to be a certified public accountant, management accountant from US. Now, you have to look at the materiality. When you're trying to, basically...
Are you from the ruling party?
Not here. No, in the center, but I was
You're
not...
a ruling party in the center?
Yeah.
Okay,
okay. Right. It's nothing to be laughed at. And we are looking at things in an as objective way, and my reason for being with you is to provide a perspective. I think here there's a group of people who are saying technically it is hackable. I think that's the sum and substance of what you're saying, and I don't dispute that. The bottom line is, when we look at things, we look at the material way, can we alter the election? And you did bring in a point where you say, in this election where it's first to the post, even changing a minor fragment of the total thing, you can alter the election. I accept that. But anything is hackable.
You give me any lock over time, we can break it. Any system, any circuits, we know in all over the world.
Yes.
Even for the Pentagon, it is alterable.
Yes, yes.
Now the bottom line, I think we as the Indian citizen has to look at when we are voting is, yes, can it be improved? I think it can be and it should be questioned. If that's what you're doing, I think I agree with you. But if you attack the bottom of democracy, I think you cannot look at a machine in a technology perspective. You have to look at the checks and balances that's built around the system, and if we need to look at it in a totality. So all I want you to look at, I think, the future leaders of this country. See, as I know it, okay, I have dealt with the election commission. I have fought an election as an independent congressman, okay? No, wait a minute. Now you ask me a question, to the best of my knowledge, I'll answer it.
Excuse me.
To the best of my knowledge, I know that it's randomly given. As people have pointed out, it's not so far in advance known so that you can program it for throughout the country. And I think basically the massive scale with which it has to operate, if somebody has to work on it, it requires multiple people. If more than one person knows something, it's not a secret anymore. So that's all I want to say. I just want to give you a different perspective. That's all.
Excuse me. You raised some interesting points that I would like to address. Let's for a moment assume technology doesn't exist. You're not a technologist. Let's for a moment assume that technology doesn't exist. And let's for a moment assume that we're back 10 years ago and we have the same problems that Indian elections were facing at that time. Booth capturing, but let's assume that we're trying to fix some of the problems that India was having. And the elections looked messy, it looked like there was many disputes. People were saying, no, that's not a mark, there was problems in counting. Let's assume that we're trying to fix that, and let's assume that a company came and said, we can fix this problem for you. Representatives from our company will come to the polling stations in the evening, and they will take the ballot boxes and we'll load them in the trucks and we'll drive off into the distance. Then at our company headquarters, we will count the votes behind our fences. In fact, it's illegal to go there. So there's no possibility for hackers because the fences are really, really high. Nobody can get in, no burglars can get in, nobody can watch us count the vote. In fact, the way we count the votes is a company secret. In fact, it's not even legal for you to find out. But in the evening, or later that day or later that month, we'll come out with a piece of paper which says who won. It is clear to you, as it is clear to me,
trust me,
that it's clear to both of us that that's completely unacceptable.
See, that
for a multitude of reasons. But
counting is not done that way in India.
It's
there are some problems in counting. Every round they count, they have to give the details of how.
However, somehow technology, somehow this.
Home Minister contested, they did not give that.
So wait. Somehow this technology has created.
Yeah, one second. Okay.
I was there in the counting. Let me just share.
No. Somehow this technology has created a shield where we are somehow not able to see that this transparency is gone. We are not able to see that we've done exactly the same thing. A company has come in, has said, we'll count the votes in our premises, except the premises are in this chip, which you're not allowed to see what it does. We count the votes, we count them on our premises, and now all of a sudden your elections look clean. Your elections now look much cleaner than they've ever looked. There are fewer disputes, there are fewer problems. It's just we hold up this box and the box displays numbers and everything is fine. You as an accountant, you should be able to say, look, we want the number doesn't say anything if you can't see where the number comes from, if you can't add up the totals where that number comes from.
You can contest it. See, basically what he's talking is what the German Supreme Court said. The transparency from the point the voter selected a candidate, voted for a candidate, to the point that vote is counted against that candidate in the final total, that has to be transparent. Any time in the steps you miss the vision, you miss the sight of that. Anything, you are in a black box and anything can happen. We can debate forever whether it can be done, whether there are checks and balances, whether there are technology, but still it is a black box, it's an unknown. And in a democracy where there is no relationship between the voted and the vote after the voting is done, and where the democracy, you simply cannot take such a chance. The person who voted has to be guaranteed the candidate he voted is counted against it. Now, you tell me there are problems in ballot stuffing and so on, but you knew that there is a problem. But if there is a problem in the machine, you have no idea.
Yes, Subramanian Swamy was commenting it's a retail fraud, whereas machines are a wholesale fraud. That's what
No, it's not just wholesale, you have no idea. It's like Dr. David Dell from Stanford University, who has done the major, he's the reformist, he's the person who was a pioneer and is first in the reforming the elections in US. He gives a good example. Let's say a voter walks into a voting booth. He says, I wish to select a particular vote, give my vote to a particular candidate, and there is a screen there is a screen, and you don't know who is behind the screen. You say, this is the candidate I would like to give my vote to, and you hand over that. You don't even, you hand over it through the screen to the other person. And the other person has to write it on a ballot paper and cast the ballot. That's what the electronic voting machine is. You don't know who that person is. You don't know how he voted. He could be a trustworthy person, and he could not be. You can't take a chance with the gun. And given an Indian corruption system, you would never take a chance.
So okay, maybe I should get up. Okay, now, yeah, all that is clear. I mean, it's the box is not good. Okay, let's not trust that to deliver us justice, because our entire democracy is based on that. That's the basis, voting and universal secret ballot and all. Now, going forward, I'm concerned about what happens next. These people from abroad have actually successfully done this, so which means their justice system has understood that these are serious challenges and said, yes, let's knock this out. So you said you went to the Supreme Court and filed something, and they said go back to the Election Commission and check with them. So what happens next? When do you go back, and how do we move this forward? Second point is, can we actually make this public? Your understanding of the current construction of these things, so we have greater public awareness. Thank you.
Yeah. I think you have heard from Mr. Hari Prasad about the technology side. Now we are in seriously searching of the better alternatives. We have Mr. Jaeger from Germany, who has really fought the legal battle, and he has given us a very good clue. So now I think this is how we are trying to just share the ideas we are sharing with you also. I think you have also contributed a lot for the last 1 hour. I think we need to still go for brainstorming. Today morning, Mr. Subramanian Swamy has invited most of the top people who are fighting in this EVM issues. I think we have Kalyan Raman and all these people.
Including the former election commissioner Gopal Swamy.
Gopal Swamy. I think this is something, you need to... I think rather than thinking about the election commission in a negative way, we should think in a positive way. What are the best alternatives available today? And yeah, what happened?
What is further is asking?
What are the further steps here?
We are exploring the best alternatives possible for coming days. We'll go back to we'll see. One side, the technology people are trying to come out with the reality. I mean, they can even see. He has given a better example. What he has done in US, he has just gone to a channel and then explored it. This is one of the alternatives, and we have. No. We are trying to explore things. What I told you, we have to wait for some time. And we have to take a lot of suggestions. And I'll tell you one more best alternative. What we are trying is, we are trying to raise this issue for the coming parliament session. Already, we have approached more than a dozen of political parties, where we were able to impress them. And they have already issued notices to the election commission, because the Supreme Court itself has given an oral comment saying that if the Election Commission, in case it finds some problem, let the political parties be allowed to go for amendments. Even that has been a comment given by the Supreme Court Chief Justice. And we are in this process of trying to explore all angles. And I think it is not one alternative. I think we'll have a mixture of things to find out the solutions.
So, see, this problem has to be, this question came up today morning. We had a lot of very respected people. We have to address in many different aspects. One is the political angle. The political parties have to make a case. Look, this is something we cannot trust. You have to go back to the Election Commission. That is one. The second thing is judiciary. We have to go to the legal mechanism and say, this is against the fundamental right of an Indian citizen, and we have to fight the legal battle. Then there is the third one, the activists. We have to bring the public awareness. Let the public know, public raise this voice. Then the fourth one is the media. And media, unfortunately, I like to reserve my comments. I get very, very upset about the way media is. It's a very corrupt organization in the media in this country, especially the national media. And so we got to bring the public awareness. Even in Germany, where things have happened, it is the public awareness that made the difference. People who prompted the courts to make a change.
I think there's some more questions.
Yeah. Why can't we use both EVM and paper? Use the EVM to calculate the result quickly and then verify it with the paper later.
That's what we are suggesting.
That's what we're suggesting, yes. We're hearing questions only from people that haven't had a chance to ask questions yet.
Increase the frequency of voting, and also on the RTA, I should know where my vote went if I need to have that. Perfect.
But those people are
What can you do to help this? Excellent question. Excellent question.
Say that again, please. Please say it in the microphone.
He said, he said, what can we do to help this?
As a student, what can we do to help this situation?
I think that's a very important question. The first thing you can do is learn and spread knowledge. There's going to be multiple websites soon that have information, but there's more information needed. It needs to be brought together. People need to start studying this subject, also study what's going on internationally, inform other people. If you're into electronics, computers, security, any of that, networking, maybe get into voting systems. Try to study stuff from abroad, try to study stuff from here, or learn about computer security in general. It really depends on what you can do. If you're into law, or if you're legally interested, get into that. If you're into technology and law, that's the best thing we can have. We need many, many people that understand sort of the friction points between technology and law. So I think those are just quick hints as to what you can do. Next question.
So it was mentioned that it's difficult to economically build secure voting machines. Why exactly is that so?
There's a very large problem in voting, and that is that there's conflicting requirements. There's the requirement that your vote is secret, that you should not be able to prove who you voted for to an outsider, and there's the requirement that the process is observable. And these two requirements conflict. It's a very easy problem if there's no secrecy of the vote. If there's no secrecy of the vote, you can just count up all the votes and everybody can see, hey, that's my name, and the candidate next to it is not my candidate. It's also a very easy problem if you don't need this observability. If you can just trust the company to take away the ballot boxes, it also becomes a very easy problem. It becomes a hard problem because we need the randomization of the ballot boxes, it's called. We need this analog part in it that we don't have a digital representation for. And because of the analog part, we need to observe the entire process, and we have this strange chain of custody requirement.
Solve the problem where both the counter and the ballot, manual ballot is put in at the same time.
Not manual balloting. You can store it in a CD or something.
There are many currently fielded solutions that address this problem.
That's anyway there in these machines.
But
that's anyway there in these machines.
there are there are many fielded solutions.
I voted, my number is 20.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. There are many fielded solutions. They all involve the vote staying in the polling station on paper in some form, be it that the paper is scanned, filled in and scanned, or be it that the paper is printed and thrown in a ballot box and counted, but they all involve some form of the vote staying in the polling station on paper and then that being recounted at least in some statistically significantly random sampled number of the polling stations. And that, to my knowledge and to the knowledge of the scientific community at large, is really the only way, if you don't want to depend on software that the voter can't verify.
And you asked a student
Any other questions from people that haven't asked questions yet?
This is a question for Hari Prasad, sir. You mentioned that it wasn't possible to dynamically toggle some malicious program in the machine because simultaneously you couldn't have key presses. But given the design of the Indian machine, as a theoretical question I wish to ask, that does the machine keep a track of, say, previous few votes? Like suppose you could have a machine where when a particular sequence of votes was encountered, then it toggled the malicious program. Say someone votes for candidate 1, then 3, then 5, and in that order, and then the program is toggled. Then such a machine could pass all the checks, and even then would be tampered.
Possible. What you said is possible, yes.
Is it possible for the present?
Yeah. But it is not one single voter trying to press all the keys and try to create a sequence.
But then it's possible for even uneducated people to you get hire a bunch of uneducated guys and tell them, you go first, press 1, press 3, press 5.
Yes, it's quite possible. Yes, it is quite possible. This is one possibility.
This contradicts the point that there are no technical people in India, so machines can't be tampered.
You're totally correct. You can build anything once you control the software. Any more questions from people that haven't? From people that haven't asked questions yet, are there any more questions?
Anybody up there? Any questions?
I really want to make sure everybody has a chance to get their question.
Why the person from the ruling party is so bent upon defending the machines, and also they all
no political diatribe here.
See, everybody has that. Let us not get personal thing now.
Same language.
No, that's a statement. That's not a question. Anybody else with a question?
Yeah. There is a Save India.
We are going to create a wiki, and he already have a wiki.
On Indian issues, there is a website, saveindiandemocracy.org. You can actually see for each country the developments, the videos, and there are one website by voterwatch.in.
I can see there's a question there.
I have a small a question and a possibility maybe.
We are there to support.
Can we not, the person who goes and votes, can't he just see the total number of votes that are being already casted? Now, what is wrong in that? I go and I cast, I see, okay, it was 100 against candidate A, now it has become 101, whatever that number is.
The problem with that is...
What is the problem if you know the result then and there and not later on?
Your question is, what is the problem with...
You don't know. I have voted, I have gone and voted, only I see the change in the number. The next person who goes and sees...
We know the question now.
Yeah.
I can give you the answer too. The answer is it doesn't help you. Yes, you can. Yes, you can see the number of people that have voted already, but you can't know that your vote was actually adding one to the correct register, and you can't show who you voted for. So yes, any proper fraud in voting, like the software we wrote for the Dutch voting machine, any proper fraud software, the first thing it's going to do is make sure that the total number of votes is still correct. So the total number, knowing the total number of votes, gives you no information about whether the vote is honest or not.
Against a candidate.
He's telling, no, yeah, but then it's you are violating the secrecy, right? You are not supposed.
You mean inside the voting booth? In secret, you see it go up by one. Well, how do you know that the voting machine just doesn't take that one off after you leave the voting booth and add it to the other one?
Anything can.
If you have an efficient audit system, conduct on every polling machine in every booth, can we ensure that all these things don't happen? You're talking about Trojans, etc. I'm pretty sure, like, if you have it, is it possible to detect these Trojans or?
No, the Election Commission of India says in its wisdom says it's so secure that even we cannot see the software that's in there. We can't read it out.
I understand. Let me say, you are talking about some sort of a verifying tool that can be developed for it, right? This is what even we suggested to the Election Commission. I can send you my reports, what we have done on a review report on Professor Indration, where we suggested that let us develop a audit tool, open source, which can be bought by all these parties and can be injected to the machine and find it out whether the machine is working fine or not. But at the same time, you guys, anybody have some brain, can even manipulate it. But we can restrict it. See, the thing is, you can't completely eradicate in electronics. You can improve the safeguards. Yes, you can develop an audit tool. We suggested it should be open source. In fact, we have an e-governance standard which says that anything used in e-governance should be open source, but not this.
Any other questions from people that haven't asked questions yet? Because I really want to give, yes, there's a question from somebody who hasn't asked a question. Excellent.
Sir, is it possible to make a 100% secured machine with totally sealed, just look like a Apple iPod or something like that, and there is no chance of tampering or something like that?
I'll answer the question. It's no, it's not possible. Just like paper is not 100% secure.
Even iPod.
The question shouldn't be, can we make 100% a secure machine? The question should be, should we be able to observe what's going on or not?
That's right.
And so the transparency is the problem, not the perfection.
Even if you create 100% secure machine, there is no guarantee that the machine in front of me is that 100% secure machine. Get that? You can always.
Have you all heard about return-oriented programming recently? How many of you heard about return-oriented programming, which is used to hack a machine which was not hacked till date? That means a 20-year-old machine which got hacked recently in US. Have you heard about it?
Read about it. And anybody else that hasn't asked a question?
Ari, you know, the person who is a technical person is Professor Indra, is the former director of IIT Madras.
He was when
You didn't tell that.
Yeah, I have actually.
He's the one who's stopping you.
Yeah, it's the last 5 minutes.
He's not aware that you are going to talk here.
Yeah. This last 5 minutes. One more last question, please.
We are not aware of the entire aspect regarding this. Where exactly can we read your views about the issues? Because we feel we didn't hear enough today.
There's this book and the website Save Indian Democracy.
This will help you.
It will also tell you how many ways to hack also.
We will do one thing. I say, let the initiative come from your side. You start a blog. Oh, he's not giving me the mic, so I don't give him back. Okay. You start a blog, and definitely, yes, we will support it and we will upload all the documents what we have. We promise.
And what about
something better? It is not facility.
No, yeah, folks. Okay, folks, one thing you can do is. Yeah.
What about comments from abroad?
We're taking 2 more questions. If you can continue this one.
Last one.
No, what about your comments and your views on this?
Well, I publish, there's a blog, but I publish lots of stuff on it, but I'll tell you offline. It's my name. It's a bit difficult to pronounce here. But there are many sites, especially in America, that deal with this. Verifiedvoting.org is an excellent site to start.
Dr. David Dill, Stanford University.
Verifiedvoting.org.
Verifiedvoting.org
is an excellent site to learn about these issues.
Now one thing,
Very quick questions.
Rob, I think we are already close. It's 3 more minutes. Now I want to, excuse me 1 second. Some of you here who went through the whole discussion, I was told this recording is being made of this whole program, and it will put it on YouTube or something. Please encourage your other students to watch this. This is your future. This is your future. Tomorrow, if you get the wrong leaders, you are the one who's going to suffer. So as much as possible, tell people we have seen a great program. We have the best people in the world. You guys missed it pretty too bad, but at least go look at this program and learn something. And we can give you, after the thing, if you want, we can give you the website. So you can write it down, saveindiandemocracy.org. It has the links for all the other sites they are talking about, all the cross links. Simple, Save Indian Democracy.
What are the system exists in American voting system? see electron, everything in two-sensor. Come here.
This is the last question, by the way. This is the ceremonial last question.
So in America, we use all sorts of different systems because voting in America is decentralized. But the system that is favored by voting experts today is one that is called precinct count optical scan. And that's one in which voters vote by filling out paper ballots and then scan them through a computer themselves at the polling place. And then the paper goes into a ballot box and the computer reports a total at the end of the day. So you have two records, a paper record and an electronic record. And the paper record is visible to people and the electronic record is a redundant, secure backup. So that's what is favored today in the States. That's what most of the new systems being installed use.
Sir, 1 second. I was expecting one question from all of you, but no one has asked that. In these electronic voting systems, we have asked in our PIL that it is affecting the secrecy of vote. Because in upgraded electronic voting machines, they have introduced a timer which will note the timing when the voter is giving a vote. That will affect the secrecy of vote. That's what we have asked for in our PIL. And I thought someone will ask the question and these people will answer for that.
Well, after seeing the machine, even in the old machine also we can find out who voted it. Because the thing is, there is a serial order. The way they are noting down the votes is in a serial order.
You want to take,
so
okay.
if I see the register and find out who has voted in what order, I can find it out.
Yeah, we can always have the discussions. I mean, if you want to come stay by, you can definitely have discussions. I would like to express my thanks to. So that is the reason why I would like to express my thanks to Professor Nagarajan, Professor Ganesh, and I forgot the head of the Department of the Chemical Engineering, and Balaraja, who has been extremely helpful. Without him, I could not have done. And thanks for coming and spread the word and protect your democracy. Bye-bye.